Hey defenders, welcome back. In this video, I want to show you guys the new open source case management and incident response platform, and that is DFIR-IRIS. And in my opinion, this is a great replacement for TheHIVE. So stick around and we'll jump into it. And all right, so a lot of you guys are probably already familiar with TheHIVE and are aware of the license change that they made at the end of 2022. So over the last few months, I myself was kind of playing around with other tools to seeing what else may be out there to fit this case management and incident response capabilities need that TheHIVE provided for us. And I ended up stumbling upon a tool called DFIR-IRIS, which I think is a perfect case for what we're looking to achieve with our case management and incident response platform. So what are incident response platforms looking to achieve? Well, they need to provide the capability for our SOC analysts to collaborate on cases together. So this allows us to work a lot more faster. We're able to work at our own times. And we're also able to split tasks up that maybe one case, such as like, let's say a DNS request was made for no malicious domain. Maybe Bob is going to collect evidence around the domain itself, such as who the domain has been registered to, what IP addresses are associated with this domain. And then let's say Steve is also another SOC analyst on the case, and he's going to collect evidence around what other hosts within the network may have also made DNS requests out to this known malicious domain. So it allows us to coordinate our tasks that may pertain to the same case to ultimately get to a resolution a lot faster. Another crucial part of any, in my opinion, incident response platform, which is what TheHIVE was great at with Cortex, was the ability to run what TheHIVE calls analyzers and responders. In Iris's world, we call them modules, and these allow us to enrich our cases with more data. For example, doing virus total lookups, maybe doing lookups to miss. So let's take, for example, the domain name. As a SOC analyst, with just a click of a button, I want to check this domain against virus total and see what hits have come back. I can now do that with just a click of a button. And that is crucial, in my opinion, to any incident response type of platform. You don't have a good incident response platform if it's simply just case management. I think you must have the ability to enrich data, run some custom jobs that you may have. So like maybe I want to do a quick vulnerability scan using Wazoo against the endpoint that is also associated with my case. So I can collect more information to really say, okay, we need to act on this and act on it now. And these can help paint a more clear picture as to how exposed the endpoint or whatever is associated with this alert could be. And just like Cortex, we have the ability to write our own modules, which is super awesome. And these modules are just written in Python. So we have the ability to very easily craft our own, which we will get into in later videos. And on SOC Fortress side, we're hoping for a really good future with this tool as well. So we're also going to be putting a lot of work into creating modules and providing those out to the community as well. A lot more to come on that in the future. But let's go ahead and actually install Iris. Iris is super easy to install. It's going to be installed via Docker, and we're going to take advantage of 5 Docker services to run the whole Iris suite. So let's go ahead and actually install. I'm going to assume you already have Docker installed. I have linked to their install guide if you don't already have Docker installed, so you can follow that along there. I'll go ahead and git clone. Go ahead and jump into their directory. I'll go ahead and check out version 1.4.5. Let's go ahead and actually create our environment file that we'll use to set some sensitive settings. So I'll go ahead and copy their environment module file and just copy that to a .env. Now let's go ahead and open up this .env, and here let's make some changes that we want to apply to Iris. So we need to set our Postgres password, and we need to change the secret key and the salt prior to building and then starting Iris. So you can also change a few other settings if you want to change like whatever domain you're hosting Iris on. If you want to use your own certain key, you can make some custom changes here if you want, but let's go ahead and change these guys out. And these can be whatever you want. I'm just going to say please subscribe for all these for now, just because this is a demo. But of course, in a production environment, you wouldn't want to use please subscribe. So go ahead and paste those there. All right, I'll save that off. Let's go ahead and build Iris. So I'll go ahead and run a Docker compose build. Do make sure you are in the same directory as your .env file. So this will run for a few minutes here. Let this just, and then when this completes, we'll just have one more other command to run and we'll be able to connect to Iris. While it's installing too, Iris, like TheHIVE, also has a very rich API that we can take advantage of to automate the creation of our cases, the running of specific modules. So like I can automate even when a case, as soon as a case is created, we can create pipelines within Iris itself to do some automated actions. All right, with our Docker images now installed, let's go ahead and bring up Iris. So we're going to run Docker compose up, and I'm going to tack on a -d to throw it in the background here. And all right, we should now have Iris up and running. Let me run a Docker PS just to make sure that, all right, we see our Iris services here. That looks good. Whoops. Oh boy. Sorry about that. We see our Iris services here. That looks good. These guys are like from some past videos. So, okay, cool. Everything's looking good. Make sure we're listening on our port. We are. Okay, good. All right, so now I'm just going to go ahead and point my browser to the Iris web UI, the IP address, just because I'm lazy and don't want to create a domain. And we're going to connect to 4433, and we can now sign in to Iris. By default, we'll create so this default administrator account does get created for us, but in order to find it, we need to check out the logs of the web app that's running. So if I run a Docker PS, what you want to do is find not our web worker, but your web app. So you want to find the container that's running our iris-web-app1. I'm going to go ahead and copy the container ID for this guy. So I'll say Docker logs. I'll paste in that container ID. I'll say -- follow. And if we find within our logs here we go. So it'll generate our administrator password for us automatically. So, but you will need to check the logs of the Iris web app container to find that. Other little thing, the other slight little change is the A for the administrator user account is not capitalized. Go ahead and make that lowercase. And then I'll copy these guys over into Iris and paste these here. And we are now logged into Iris. And when you first get started with Iris, it does have like a demo case that they create for you. So when I first open a case, we'll have every kind of like feature that's associated with a case will be tabbed here at the top. So we have our summary. We then have our notes, assets, IOC, timeline graph, etc. So if we kind of step through these, if we want to create our summary, and here we can create our own like HTML template pages to use. So here I could just say like, hello from Iris. We can add other notes. So anyone else working on this same case as well, we can add notes to kind of communicate with one another. Taylor has completed test case summary creation. We can add as many notes as we would like to cases to leave, whatever you want. Then we have our assets. So here we can actually add our assets to the case. So this could be, an actual endpoint. Maybe this could be an email address or maybe a website, whatever. Maybe this could be a firewall, for example. You have a pre-populated selection of asset types you can select from. You can also create your own as well, which we'll get into here in a sec as well. So here for an asset type, I could say like test Windows box. I'll go ahead and give it an asset type of, I'll just give it a Windows computer. You can even add in more meta details. So you could give a domain that this asset has been found within. I'll just say like sockfortress.local. IP address. So let's give it a 1.1.1. We can set other flags here to say, is this compromised or not? What our status is with this current asset? Is there still some work that needs to be done in terms of investigating activity on the asset a little further? We can link it to IOCs. So let's say, for example, our test Windows box. Actually, let me kind of change this around. Let me put that there and I'll just call this like Windows A or Windows 1. That works. We could link this asset type to an IOC. So let's say Windows 1 was the one that made a DNS request out to, let's say, evil.socfortress.co. We can link that asset to that IOC, and we can do that here, which I'll show you guys here in a sec as well. So if we go ahead and save that guy, we see our asset table get built out for us, which is pretty handy. And it's really handy for if multiple endpoints are triggering the same type of alert. Rather than creating hundreds of the same case, we can actually just add the assets to the one case rather than creating 100 cases. We only have to create one, and now we add our assets as we'd like. Then within our IOC tab here, we can also add and create our own IOCs. So here for a type, since we've just using domain, I'll go ahead and select a domain. So very similar to like within the Hive when you select the IOC type. However, there are a ton more of these here. And these are important when it comes to the modules and kind of the automation, because we use them within the module itself. We can say, hey, I want this function to run if it's an IP address, or I want this function to run if it's a domain. So we do want to be strategic when it comes to our IOC types, because that may impact what runs within the module, the backend. So that is something to consider. But again, we'll get into that later. So I'll go ahead and do an IOC value of evil.socfortress.co, and I'll go ahead and save that. Now let's go back to our asset, and let's go ahead and link our asset to our newly created IOC that we have here. So if we now select that and link those two together, now let's go ahead and jump into our timeline. So here for an event, I'm just going to create this myself, of course, which we will get into later using Shuffle to create cases and add to our timelines in an automated fashion. You know, we don't want to be doing this for every case. That doesn't scale at all. So in future videos, we will get into building a workflow within Shuffle that automates this process for us. So, but for the time being, we will make it manual just so I have some stuff to show y'all. I'll give it a date and time. Let's leave it at that. Let me copy my event description over event source. We'll simulate that this is something like Wazoo. We now link it to, we can now link our timeline to our asset. So I'll link this to my Windows 1, and we can also link it to IOCs as well. So I'll go ahead and save that. And let's also create our other timeline, our other event within the timeline, which would actually be the DNS request that's made out to evil.socfortress.co. So because this is, and the timelines are really awesome because we now get the full painted picture, and hopefully I do a good job explaining that here in a sec. But let's actually go ahead and create the DNS request event alert here. Select our day and our time. I'll give it like a minute after, just so there's something, just so the timeline has it organized correctly. Source, again, I'll say Wazoo, link to our asset. And then we can also link to our IOC because we see the query that was made for a sysmon event 22, which is a DNS request, is out to our IOC that we created a second ago. So I'll go ahead and save that as well. And now, like, what's really awesome about these timelines is we get the full picture rather than, because originally what would have happened is sysmon event 1, a ping command out, that's not going to trigger a Wazoo alert that would automate of creating of a case. But what does trigger the alert is the DNS request out to a known malicious domain. But as a SOC analyst, I need the full picture. I need to know not only, okay, a DNS request was made, but what actually invoked the DNS request? Did an executable get started? And that's the one that's contacting this malicious domain? Was it maybe someone within their browser going to a malicious website, and like Chrome, for example, was the one that made the DNS request? What exactly happened? What are the events that happened for us to get to our alert? And the timelines is a great way to visually see that, because now we see, okay, the ping process was created. And we see the command that was ran was ping evil.socfortress.co. Immediately after that, we then see the event that actually triggered the alert and actually caused this case to be created. And that's the DNS request out to evil.socfortress.co. So it gives us the full picture rather than just, okay, here's the alert and that's it. We need to know what are the surrounding evidence around this alert. And in the future videos, when I show you guys the shuffle workflow automation that we're working on, I'll detail exactly kind of how we're doing that, so you guys will get a better understanding of that as well. If we then go to the graph, sorry, it's a little dark, I guess, because I have it in dark mode, but hopefully you guys can see that. And if we hover over, we see the actual event within the timeline that is linked to. So pretty cool there. We kind of get an easier visual to see. We can then create our own tasks if we want as well and assign those out to people. So I could say like investigate IP, status of, oh, sorry. Let's go ahead and create a task. So I'll say investigate domain, status, I'll say of to do, and I'll say look up domain within VirusTotal module. All right, so I'll go ahead and save that, and I'll leave that as a task for myself to do. Let's actually now go ahead and, so now let's enable the VirusTotal module. That'll automatically enrich our IOC with results that we get back from VirusTotal. So I'll go ahead and go into advanced, and I will go into modules. And here we see our IRIS VT module. So I'll go ahead and select this guy, and this opens up the configuration that we need to set. So as you're building your own modules, you can take input from the user via these configurations. So because everyone's going to have their own unique VirusTotal API key, maybe you want to add some flags to, okay, do I want this to add as a report or not? So this allows us to take inputs from the end users as they enable our module. So I'll go ahead and select our API key here, and I'll go ahead and paste that in. My VirusTotal key is not premium, so this should be the only thing I have to add here. So I have my VirusTotal API key added, and I'll go ahead and select enable module. And now our module is ready to go. And we can now actually trigger this guy. So I'll go back into my case here, and I will go back into my IOCs, and let's go ahead and select our IOC, and I'll select our little submenu here where we have our dots, and now we can actually now run our VirusTotal module. So I'll go ahead and select our get VT insight. We see that it's queued up in the background. What we can also do is look at the task. So if we select our little menu here and select our dim task, we can see that the module has ran and it looks like it's completed and is good. So if we now select our IOC again, we now have our VirusTotal report that we have here. So we get a new tab that's also created for our VirusTotal report. And here we can see our VirusTotal results back to us. So we get no hits within VirusTotal. That's good. Well, not good for our example, I guess. I'll find an actual like malicious domain. But we actually now see details that VirusTotal had on the socfortress.co domain. So we at least know our module is working correctly. Let's find like a known malicious one, and let's see what that looks like. Let me see. I just grabbed this from GitHub. So let's see if this has any hits for us within VirusTotal. So if I now save this, and we'll do the same thing, we will select the IOC and go ahead and select the get VT insight. That should now complete. You may have to manually refresh to get the tab to populate after the job has ran. So make sure you are doing that. And we see VirusTotal has added a flag to our IOC that this IOC is actually suspicious. So if we now select the VT report, we get the raw details of the response we got back from VirusTotal's API. So all of the meta details are going to be contained within our raw JSON here. And we now see our report here of VirusTotal detecting this domain 2amsports.com. Oh, pretty cool. Cases as well also have data stores. So we can add our own collected evidence. For example, anything we're building like offline, like off of Iris itself, but want to upload as supporting evidence. Maybe screenshots we've taken of like Grafana dashboards or search queries that we're making, and we want to upload those events to the case. We can also upload those to the data store as well, which is really convenient. And then lastly, real quick, just to wrap up this video, to switch among various cases, you would select up in kind of the top left portion of your menu here, select your case, and any other multiple cases that are still open, you would have the ability to switch in between here. So if I go into manage cases, let me just create a new case. I'll say test, test, test. Go ahead and create that case. Now, if I select, so within our overall dashboard, we see that we now have 2 cases open. And if I select my current case that I'm currently on, you'll now see that we have our other case that's been created as well. So you can switch between your cases in this manner here. And if I select save, now when I go to my case under the investigation tab, you see we're all back to square one. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I am really excited about DFIR-IRIS. Go check them out and go support them. There's a really good team behind this product. And I'm really excited to see another product come along outside of TheHIVE that is going to stay open source and is now an awesome replacement that we can use for TheHIVE that gives us our case management and incident response platform capabilities. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one.